All right, now we go into our lightning round. This will be 30-second responses each, quick questions, and we'll begin with you, Megan. From a growth and transit perspective, what one or two cities would you say you would most like to emulate and why, and how will you specifically get us to a similar place?
Sure, let me talk specifically about Denver since you mentioned transit. Okay. When we went on the chamber trip several years ago to look at options for transit, Denver is the one that sticks out in my mind. What they were able to do was act as a region. And what Mayor Dean has done recently is to bring all of the mayors together to have this regional conversation. That came out of that Denver trip. That's because our transit is a regional conversation, and that's something I'll continue to do.
David?
Same question?
Yeah.
Denver is looked at as a school, as a city that we can model ourselves after. One of the challenges in addressing Nashville's transit challenge is that our city is not necessarily like any other city. So you just can't take a template and drop it on our head here. Denver has done some good things. Austin recently has done some very helpful things. Las Vegas has improved their bus service in a way that we could emulate. So I think our solution is going to be taking bits and pieces and make sure we come up with a Nashville solution.
Okay. Next question for you, David. There's been significant redevelopment, we know, downtown along the riverbank, but some say there's still work to be done. Would you support the use of eminent domain to acquire the PSC Metals property on the east bank of the Cumberland River?
You know, taking private property by force is not an awesome thing to do. I don't love it. I'm glad we have the authority to do it in things we absolutely essential to the commonwealth of our city. But using it for this purpose doesn't work for me. I think there are other things we can do. The zoning in that area, in my view, should be zoned where it could be used for mixed use, not just industrial. If that were to happen, I think we'd see the rent of that property go up, and the current owner would have to, the user would have to decide if it still makes sense. So I'm not an eminent domain fan, and I would not use it in this instance, even though I'm eager to see it redeveloped.
Megan.
I think we can all agree it's an eyesore, and with all of the amazing development that we've seen on the river recently, it would be wonderful if that had a different view. But eminent domain is something that you use very sparingly. And if we were to eminently domain it, we would actually have to then buy it. These come with a cost, and they're usually a market value cost. That would be a very expensive acquisition. In fact, the last time I heard the number, it was at about $1 billion. I'm not prepared to invest $1 billion of taxpayer dollars in eminently domaining that.
And just to clarify, we have nothing against PSC Metals. Just using it as an example. All right, this next one for you, Megan. What book beside the Bible do you think has had the most influence on you as a leader?
Well, I think at the moment I'm reading Jimmy Carter's book, and I look at Jimmy Carter as an amazing person who took his opportunity after he was president to really be a true humanitarian. When I was listening to him recently talk about his challenge now with cancer, and his one hope is that he can eradicate the worm that causes so much pain for people across the world. Those are the kinds of people I look at, and I read their books and think that this is what I'd like to emulate.
David.
Sure. One of the best books on leadership I've ever read is From Good to Great. It detailed successful CEOs, heads of any various organizations, and just studying what do they have in common, what's replicable for other people who can be successful. And what they found is the best leaders aren't always the biggest backslappers, the most affable people with a megaphone. Actually, people lead with quiet confidence, who develop relationships of trust and confidence, boost the spirits of other people in the organization, set high expectations. I think there's a lot to be learned from that, and I try to learn from that myself.
All right, David, last lightning round question will go with you. What was the single biggest mistake you believe the Dean administration made?
Sure. I'm a big fan of the Dean administration. I think it will go down as one of the finest periods in Nashville history. I think the single mistake that the Dean administration made is one that happened several times. And it's a matter of how do you lead in the public sector? Well, what's very important is to be upfront, inclusive, transparent, build a vision before you move forward. I think that's what happened in the fairground situation and the flood wall and the police station. I think it was kind of a recurring issue where if you lead in the public sector, you've got to be very transparent and inclusive before you move forward.
Megan.
The community conversation is key to making sure that we continue to invest and move Nashville forward, and those would have been the opportunities that we missed and that I would do different as mayor. And I look at the conversations that were had. Those also didn't include the council members. The council members are critical. They need to understand what is happening or what is going to occur in their district, and they need to be at the table. In my administration, the new council, of which we have a whole lot of new council members come in, will be critical in making sure that Nashville is successful.